Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 347 to 348 for the 5th to the 6th of February. Let's start off with the Southern Front. We have no reports over the Southern Front. And moving on to the Zaporizhia line, we have some fighting reported over at the Zaporizhia line. There is fighting reported near Hryhorivka from Mofopil, according to the Russian Defense Ministry on their 5th of February report. As you can see, there's some stuff getting destroyed at Hryhorivka in the Zaporizhia region. And there's also fighting reported near Dvorichne in the same report over here. And that's all from the Zaporizhia line. Moving on to the Donetsk front in this region here in the Donetsk region, the situation at Voleda remains rather similar. The Russian forces are fighting near Voleda, so they are still trying, but it's not really the kind of a major assault at this moment. And the Ukrainians continue to send reinforcement over at Voleda. Around 100 troops has been moved to this area, and Ukrainians continue to do mining operations in the residential areas and multi-story buildings in case of a breakthrough, which means that so the significance of such mining operations means that the Ukrainians have no intention of moving out of Voleda. That means a counter-offensive is unlikely. They are going to hold the position, and with all this mining also means that Voleda is kind of screwed as a civilian region, which means this area is not going to have peace anytime soon. So there is some bombardment shelling report over at Vodian. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, I suppose this is the Vodian that was getting hit by shelling because of the way how it is reported. Because it's reported together with Hryhorivka, and I don't think it's going to be the other Vodian, because the other Vodian is actually Russian controlled. Over at the Novomikhailivka region, the fighting reported by War Gonzo towards Paraskovievka is not reported anymore. And the fighting is now back to Novomikhailivka again. According to the information from DeepStateUA, they have a video of shelling at Novomikhailivka, and they say that based on these strikes, it is confirmed that the Russians actually do not have control over any parts of Novomikhailivka, or at least that's according to them, and I think that makes sense. So however, there is still fighting reported at Novomikhailivka over the past 2 days, with the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reporting on the 5th, and on the 5th, and in the latest War Gonzo report, they also reported fighting in the area of Novomikhailivka. And over at the Marinka region, so significant changes. The Ukrainian forces have over some time ago managed to fight back and recapture most of the western part of Marinka. This information comes after major reports of Russian forces attacking from the south of Marinka or southwest of Marinka, and this report is being reported by the Ukrainian pro-Ukrainian source DeepStateUA as well. So this is reported by pro-Russian source Rybar, and so we have both pro-Russia and pro-Ukraine sources reporting about this fighting around this area here. And because of this report, if it seems like the pro-Russian sources have no choice but to talk about this elephant in the room, because previously it was reported that the Russian forces have already captured most of this area here in a push from the center towards the west of Marinka. And but to have fighting reported around here would suggest that the Ukrainian forces is actually around this area here. So which means that this area, this capture is invalidated. As such, the pro-Russian sources have to change the front line back to here. For DeepStateUA, the front line is actually more around here, and currently there is fighting reported around the center region here, as well as in the southwest or the south of Marinka. So this is the situation here. I should have zoomed in further actually. Yeah, so I should have zoomed in here so further. So fighting is currently around the center area here, with the Russian pushing the center as well as from the south and the southwest. There is also no geolocation of fighting around this region here, with a Ukrainian tank being spotted. Ukrainian tank attacking Russian forces in this region here. And the latest information suggests further success for the Russian side to able to push furthermore in this region here. So moving on, there is fighting reported at Boyeda, according to both defense ministries. On the 5th and on the 6th, War Gonzo continued to report that there is fighting towards Boyeda. And that's all for the Marinka region. Moving up north, there is shelling report at Hryhorivka on the 5th, and there is active assault over at Hryhorivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and then later was reported by War Gonzo, with the Russian forces still trying to penetrate here through this direction. It's very hard to penetrate through here because you can see it's extremely heavily entrenched. Basically, this is another fortress, so I don't think there is much success on this region here. It's very hard to have progress around here. Moving on, in the Pervomayske Pisky region, over here, there is fighting reported at Nevelske, where previously we heard about the drunken tankers. They're the drunken tankers, and the fighting is still ongoing at Nevelske for the past 2 days. And at Pervomayske as well, there is reports of fighting according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and then by War Gonzo. According to War Gonzo, there is a Ukrainian counter-offensive near Vodian, towards Vodian. Oops, wrong color. Yeah, towards Vodian, and the result of this counterattack is not clear. The Russians, however, is attacking towards Siversk, according to the information from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So moving on, there is shelling reported at Yasnobrodivka, which is actually a little bit of the distance from Pervomayske. The shelling is being reported here with the name drop by the Russian Defense Ministry, and there is also shelling reported at Hryhorivka, also by the Russian Defense Ministry's report. Moving on, there is fighting reported at Hryanykivka, in the northeast of Hryhorivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So around this region, it looks like this now. The Russians attacking from Hryanykivka, Zhiverny, Pervomayske, and Nevelske, with bombardment all around this region here. And the Ukrainians actually counterattacking at Vodian. So moving on from this region, the front line at Bakhmut-Konstyantynivka in the New York front has been clarified a bit due to geolocation reports by DeepStateUA, where they reported Russian forces at this position. So this allowed us to push back this front line further away, because this has been disputed since early September, and we do not really have much information about this region. Very few stuff come out from this region, and now we went from like this to now is like this, the front line, with the Russian forces confirmed to be holding up to this position. And this is the entrenched position, so there is some active fighting over this region. Not clear how much is the assault, or is it just positional. So but as you can see, based on this information, most of Bakhmut-Konstyantynivka is under Russian control, which is actually more akin to what my understanding of Bakhmut-Konstyantynivka is. And over the rest of New York front is actually very quiet. Moving on to the Bakhmut Front. At the Bakhmut Front, where the biggest offensive of the Russian side is being reported. First, we have a geolocation of Russian forces at this location on the western part of Hryanykivka. So which actually clarifies the front line, allow us to redraw the Ukrainian front line further away, and it's getting closer to Tushposhki, but it's still not there just yet. Over at the situation at Ivanivske, so this area here is a bit tricky. The Russian forces are attacking Nevelske from this direction, and there is new reports coming from Rybar saying that the Russians are attacking from the southwest. So the Russians are now attacking in this way. And the other two reports is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and Rybar, and then by Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So the fighting around Ivanivske is definitely there, definitely real. And the Russians also are attacking the western part of Ivanivske. So they are now getting very close. Previously, there's only 1 kilometer away. I think by now it's a bit, maybe 500 meters. And there is rumors or reports that the Russian forces have now fire control over the road, which means that the Ukrainians will not be able to use this road now. They will not be able to use this road to reinforce Nevelske and towards Bakhmut. So situation is not looking good. The Ukrainians did have reinforcement coming to Ivanivske, according to the reports from Rybar. So Rybar reported that there is reinforcement coming to Ivanivske or Krasny, according to their Russian name. And there is also reports by Wargonzo that the Ukrainians attempted a counteroffensive and managed to regain some positions, which means that the Ukrainian forces have attacked probably in this direction, able to capture some of the weaker points, because the Russians' focus is mostly towards here. So maybe this part here is a bit weak, and they managed to get pushed back a little bit. So this might be the situation here at Ivanivske. So I have made a more detailed report about the situation over at the Bakhmut, the Battle of Bakhmut and Ivanivske, and what is the Russian plans. Do check it out. I will put the link at the end of this video, and you should watch it. Yeah, you should watch it. I don't want to talk too much about that. Reinforcement is reported in the northwest of Bakhmut, according to Rybar, with troops moving from moving to secure the Chasiv Bakhmut road. And it might be an attempt to actually secure this retreat route in the eventual retreat of the Ukrainian forces, given that the Russian forces is currently pushing very hard from the north, from this side, it's pushing in so many directions that, and also the cutting off of the road, attacking from here. So the Ukrainians may have no choice but to redraw. And this might come very, very soon, within 1 week or two, depending on the situation on the ground. They are still holding on for good reasons, because the Ukrainians still have to reinforce a new line of defense, to dig up the trenches, to build up fortifications. So the longer they can hold, the stronger the next line of defense will be. So do not blame the Ukrainians for being stupid. They are just trying to hold on for as long as they can. Over at the Bakhmut city, fighting is now reported in the cemetery region since the 5th of February, and the fighting continues to be reported over here, and there is fighting reported in this direction. So then they are into the urban area around here as well. And in the reports, there is this place called the Sobashevsky district, and it's being reported by Rybar on both days. I'm not too sure if the Sobashevsky is actually this area, or is it this area. I'm not too sure, to be honest. So I cannot find information on where exactly this district is. So for those that are more familiar with Ukraine or Bakhmut or Russian mappings, do let me know. But there is most likely fighting from Opitne moving up north, and there's also fighting reported into the Zabamovka region, Bakhmutovka region, sorry. And the control the fighting is still around this Shevkoho, or Chernyshevsky Street, and Dobrolyubov Street, which is actually Dobrolyubova Street, which is here. It's a very irritating kind of renaming by the Ukrainians. They keep renaming everything, and it makes reading really difficult. And from my understanding, the Ukrainians don't even use all these new names. They all use the old names, the old Russian names. So it's just an exercise of futility and confusion. So on the 5th of February, there is some rumors of Ukrainian falling back in the East Bakhmut, according to DeepStateUA. So they are trying to prep their readers that the situation in the eastern part of Bakhmut is very difficult. So you do have to move away to avoid falling into an encirclement. So so they are just prepping. I don't think the Ukrainians have withdrawn much. Probably partial withdrawals, but the lines are still holding. The Ukrainians are still sending still trying their best to hold the lines. And so the Ukrainian Defense Ministry simply reported fighting at Bakhmut for both days, so nothing to shout about. And it significantly is I have geolocated Bakhmut meat processing plant. This is discovered because of the way how Rybar has been reporting about fighting around the northern outskirt in the area of meat processing plant, and that makes me think, how could that be possible if it's northern outskirt but in the area of meat processing plant? And this forced me into another search, and I finally managed to find the actual meat processing plant is actually here, in this very grayish place, which from the satellite map looks a bit like, the food process there don't look very safe, but but this is actually the actual location of the meat processing plant, and it's actually not here. Then this also explains why I find it a bit weird, where the street names along here is being mentioned while on a separate paragraph of the meat processing plant fighting. So the fighting around meat processing plant and then the fighting around the streets just don't make sense, because it kind of like repeating the same information. So this explains why. That means the Russians actually have been pushing in this area here way more than I have been reporting. So so that's the reality. Geolocation has been reported of Russian forces around this region here on the 5th of February, and then in the latest, the Russian forces is now geolocated around this region here. So the Russians are indeed pushing along the residential area here. They are not fighting at the meat processing plant, only in the area here only. So fighting is still ongoing. To me, this is the northeast part of Bakhmut. In the northern part of Bakhmut, there is also fighting being reported in the north of Bakhmut, according to Rybar, and then by Wargonzo. The Russian forces, mainly the Wagner private military contractors, is currently entrenched in the Ushakov lane, which is actually this lane here. So the Russian forces is currently entrenched around here. So this allows them to build up as a forward operating base, and then they can actually push out from here to continue their assault towards the rest of Bakhmut. So this is currently happening. And what else? So that I've reported. Okay, moving on. In the Paraskovievka Krasnohora region, the fighting is still ongoing. There is a capture of the building material plants. I have no idea where is this. I suspect that it's actually this thing, and which means that the Russians might have captured this area here, and they are now pushing northward towards the south of Krasnohora. And there is also no geolocation of Russian forces in this position according to DeepStateUA, which actually help us to freshen up the front line, which means the Russians are actually pushing in this direction. So then fighting is continuing to be reported at Paraskovievka according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and also of course by other sources. This is actually a very hot spot. So the Russians are actually attacking also from Blahodatne to the north of Paraskovievka. So currently the situation is now like this. So this is what it looks like from the strategic view, and the Ukrainians are currently trying to hold the line around here. So not fully I think the main reason is just to protect the road from the Russians as long as they can. Otherwise I don't see a lot of strategic value into holding this position for very long. And at Blahodatne, fighting is reported on the western part of Blahodatne. And in the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, in their latest report, now name drop Zaliznyanske. So which means that the Ukrainian Defense Ministry is now acknowledging that the Russians are pushing nearer to Zaliznyanske now, from Blahodatne, and they are pushing towards Zaliznyanske. And this is interesting because there is actually a entrenchment that is being shown from videos, and the Russians are probably overrunning these locations, and they are pushing towards Zaliznyanske, and which then will lead us to really speculate what is the move, what is the strategic move to moving in this direction. I haven't really looked into this yet. Once I manage to see something, I will let you know why the Russians might be actually pushing in this direction. And further up north, there is fighting reported west of Sil. Probably is trying to tackle this fortification here, and they are trying to take this out and actually push westward, maybe to create a defense position along the river. So yeah, that might be the case. That might be the situation to try to have a better defense line along the river. Might be the case. So over at the Mykolaiivka, Krasnopolivka region, the Russian forces is actually attacking Vasyukivka westward on both days, with reports coming from Wogonzo and Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Reinforcement is being reported by DeepStateUA on the 5th of February, with the Russians sending reinforcement to the Mykolaiivka region in order to continue their offensive out from here. And on the 6th of February, yesterday's Russian Defense Ministry report, they finally announced the capture of Mykolaiivka. So this is a confirmation of the capture, which was previously reported based on OSIN. And reporting, there's also fighting reported towards Hryhorivka from the south, according to Rybar and SuriyakMaps. And there is geolocation of Russian forces in this position according to DeepStateUA. So this actually confirms the front line with the Russians actually in this position, and the front line is probably around here with the Russian trying to push into Hryhorivka. And the fighting towards Hryhorivka is not mentioned. So this reinforcement might actually be the case where the Russians are trying to reinforce the line first, to prepare, build up a more significant force before they push. So moving on from this region, fighting is reported at Vasile on the 5th and on the 6th. On both days are reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Bombardment is reported at Sperne, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, on the 5th. DeepStateUA geolocated Ukrainian forces at this, I think this fuel thingy, is it? Gas station. Yeah, so this is a gas station. So the Ukrainian forces is actually holding this position. This allow us to redraw the front line, and so which means the Sperne is actually pretty much secured by the Ukrainian forces tentatively. Fighting is reported at Bakhmut-Konstyantynivka for both days, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and no details about the fighting there. And previously I mentioned that the capture of Bilohorivka has been disputed by SuriyakMaps, and DeepStateUA have came out yesterday also asserting that this is actually fake information, that the Bilohorivka is not captured by the Russian forces. And as such, the blue map, the Ukrainian map, is now redrawn to here. So according to DeepStateUA's mapping, so the mapping has changed. For the Ukrainian side, for the Russian side, it remains the same. The Russian border is still around captured, with Bilohorivka captured, because Rybar continued to double down that the Bilohorivka has been liberated or captured by the Russian forces, and they are currently fighting in the area of Bilohorivka, and they are continuing their offensive. So from the Bilohorivka, according to the Russians, they are still continue to push out towards Hryhorivka, and the fighting is currently probably around this area here. So the Ukrainians, however, asserted that the entire area is still pretty much secured by the Ukrainian forces. And interestingly is that the fighting here is not reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, so I have no idea why is that the case? If the Russians are still attacking Bilohorivka, then there should be some kind of report that in these reports here that Bilohorivka is under attack. So let's see. On the 6th, you can see that the name dropped. They straight away go from Kreminna, Dibrova in the Luhansk region. They did not mention the Bilohorivka, and this might be a tacit agreement or acknowledgement that Bilohorivka might be lost, because we still have reports of fighting around Bilohorivka. So the Ukrainian Defense Ministry not saying that might suggest that the Ukrainians have actually lost Bilohorivka. But anyway, this is just how I analyze the information coming from different sources. You can make your own make your own analysis, because ultimately I'm just giving you all the informations based on all the sources that I read, and so you can make your own analysis, and that's basically that's the whole point of TPA's mapping. And what is this? Holy shit, I think this is a spy balloon. Commanders, I need you guys to shoot it down. Press the like button, shoot it down. It is the YouTube shadow banning unit is spying on us. Shoot it down. Yeah. All right, it got shot down. Thank you so much. Moving on. At the Kreminna front, the Russian forces continue their Kreminna super duper offensive, with fighting reported in the Zaliznyanske forestry, particularly in the southwest part of Kreminna, and there's also fighting reported in the area of Dibrova, and the Russian forces is still trying to push out, with the Ukrainian lines seemingly managed to hold up. So that seems to be the case. And the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the fighting in this region here, is this one, is near Kreminna. So they name drop Kreminna, so which means that the front line is actually still pretty close to Kreminna. And over at Yampolivka, the Russian forces is attacking on Yampolivka, and this is reported on both days, according to Rybar and Russian Defense Ministry. So Russian Defense Ministry reported the last one, and so let me clear up the arrows. And there's also fighting reported over at Novosadove. The reports came in on the 5th and the 6th. Both is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. And over at Nevsky, the Ukrainians did manage to launch a counteroffensive east of Nevsky. However, this did not maintain. This is reported by Rybar. And the next day, Rybar reported that the Russians are the one on the offensive again, which means that the Ukrainians actually tried to attack, but then it did not work out. The Russians counterattack further again. So this is a counterattack, so it's a counterattack. Yeah, so fighting is still ongoing for the eastern part of Nevsky. There is a major valley around here, and then there is some high ground here. So the region here, this is the high ground. So when you read reports saying that they are fighting near the heights or the high ground, this is actually the place. So it says that the Russians actually have some success in this region here. So until the fighting here is resolved, Nevsky is unlikely to see combat. Fighting is also reported at Makiyevka on the 5th of February, but it's not reported yesterday. And the incursion into Hryhorivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's report, is not reported again. So I think this might actually be invalidated, might not be true. Just the Ukrainian Defense Ministry like to name drop weird places, sometimes to confuse people. And the Ukrainian did send reinforcement to Rikudo, probably to launch reinforcement to the front line. These forces is reportedly from the Chernihiv region. And moving on into the Svetove Front. At Svetove Front, the Russian forces started fighting again. That's towards Hryhorivka and Hryanykivka. So the Hryhorivka is, sorry, I think this is the wrong color. It's actually the Ukrainians are actually doing the DRG recon. Sorry, the Ukrainians are doing DRG around here, the recon forces, and the Russians are the one that's attacking at Hryanykivka. So the reports here is by the Russian Defense Ministry, and so let me click away. And for both days, the Russians are actually attacking around this region. The attack also is being reported at Novoselivske, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And Russian Defense Ministry just report shelling at Novosibirsk. DeepStateUA actually geolocated a destroyed Russian tank in this position and active not dead Russian tanks here. So which means the front line is actually pretty close. This is actually indeed the gray zone. So the fighting is still ongoing for Novosibirsk. The Ukrainians did manage to send some recon forces, some attack into this area called the Popov Forest. I'm not sure where's the Popov Forest. I think the most likely Popov Forest is actually here. So I marked it here. I think this is actually here. And there is shelling reported at Berestove on the 5th, and there's shelling reported at Kreminna both on the 6th. Both are reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. And that's all from the Siversk Front. And moving into the Kupyansk Front, the Ukrainian recon operations or the raiding attacks continue at Hryhorivka, and there is shelling reported at Ivanivske, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. And there is shelling reported at Timkovka as well on the 6th. And now we are into the Dvorichne region. So we're going from the south. The Russian forces is attacking Hryhorivka, according to the latest report by Rybar on the 6th of February. Otherwise, previously there was shelling reported by the Russian Defense reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. The Ukrainians actually do a attack at Liman Pershi, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, which was translated to Liman Pervi. So the perverted lemon is actually attacking here, and then the Russians are attacking the south. So moving on from the perverted lemon over the Dvorichne region, the latest information with the coming from War Gonzo, which I call it a rumor because War Gonzo's sources is suspect, but the rumor is that the Russian forces have captured Dvorichne. According to the information by DeepStateUA, they say that the front line is now at the border of the village of Hryhorivka, and the War Gonzo also reported the same for the 6th, where the fighting for Dvorichne has moved on. And this actually I suspect that Dvorichne has been captured, but I do not want to confirm just yet. Geolocation of Russian forces is being reported by DeepStateUA at this location. So this actually changed the front line quite significantly, with the Russians actually entrenched in the western part of Dvorichne. And with this geolocation report, it does look like the Dvorichne has been captured by the Russian forces. The Ukrainian forces did try to attack in the area of Hryhorivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, about this recon groups that is actually attacking the Russian lines, and the Russians are shelling Hryhorivka on yesterday's report. So the situation here is quite bad for the Ukrainians, with the Russians making a serious push in this direction. And so we shall know whether there's any corroboration of the information about the capture of Dvorichne by Rybar or DeepStateUA as we move forward. There's nothing at the Kharkiv front, and that's all for the summary for the day of 347 to 348 for the 5th to the 6th of February. And if I talk too fast, you can slow down the video, and if you don't understand what I'm saying, just watch more and you'll get used to it. And thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next update.